Hi, so today we're going to create a class diagram. The question says create a class diagram for a class called student to store the details of all the learners in an IT class. The class diagram must include the following fields and methods. So on the right, I have created a table with 3 blocks, and the first block must contain the name of the class. So we'll put student there. The next block must contain all the fields. So let's start filling them in. The first one is a private string called name to store the full name of the learner. So because it's private, we must make it minus. Oops, I think I've got my underline on. Let's just remove the underline. A minus space, because I'm working in Word, the space seems to want to indent, so I'm going to remove that. So I've got minus. Now I put the name of the field first, so name, and then a colon, and then the type of the variable, and this is a string. Please note, for Java people, I'm putting a small s, string, because this is a type of data that we're referring to not in a language. It's this is more of a document that we use to analyze the class, and it could be applicable to any language. Next field, a private integer called grade to store the learner's grade. So it's minus for private. Then the name of the field, grade, a space in a colon, space, then integer. Note, for Java people again, it's not int, it's integer. Okay. Then a private field to store the learner's weight. So that will be minus again. Let's call it weight, colon. Now the weight could be like 80.5. So we will make that a real number. And then a public static string constant called part-time to store the text part-time. So because it's public, I'm going to put a plus. We're going to put the name of the variable to part-time. Note it's in capitals, and that is because constants are always put in capitals. Then we're going to say equals, and we've got part-time, that string, then colon, then the type, and this needs to be a string. Now there's one detail we haven't shown here, and that is the fact that it is static. And to show that, we underline the whole line. Okay, like that. That shows us that this is a static field. Then a public static integer called total students to store the number of learners in the class. So that again is going to be plus the name of the field, total students, then colon, and this is an integer. And again, it is static, so I'm going to highlight the whole line and underline it, showing that it is static. And that's the end of the fields. We can now go on to the methods, which go in the last block. So first of all, we want a default constructor. Now, I know that in Java, we always put the name of the constructor. Method is the same as the name of the class, so it would be student. But when we do a class diagram, we just denote it as constructor. And this one would be bracket, bracket, because it's the default constructor. No parameters. The next one will have parameters. A constructor to instantiate a student object with parameters for the relevant fields. Let's go plus constructor, bracket. Now, what would the relevant fields be? Well, it's referring to the instance variables, which are the 3 private variables here. So for each of these, we need to have a parameter in the constructor. So we'll just say n for short for the name, and then string, colon string, comma. For the grade, I'll put G, colon integer. And for the weight, I'll put W, colon real, and close the brackets. Now remember that constructors do not have a type. They are a void method. So we don't need to put colon and a type. We just leave it like that. Now a mutator method for the grade. Remember that this will be a public method again, so plus. Mutators are the set methods. They change the values of the field. So it's going to be set grade, and then the brackets, and we will need a value here, so we're changing the grade, so we'll put G colon integer. And close the bracket. Now a mutator field, a mutator method, again, it does not have a type, so we just leave it like that. Then an accessor method for the name, so we're going to say plus get name. Remember, the accessor methods are the getters. They do not have a parameter, so it's just bracket, bracket, then colon. What type of method should this be? If it's returning the value of the name, which is a string, then it must be a string type method. So we put colon string. And then last of all, the toString method, which also returns a string. It will also be public. toString, bracket, bracket, colon, string, because it's got to return a string. And that's the complete class diagram for this class. So I've put a practice question in for you now. This is using the 2017 IEB exam, the practical exam. I found a nice example of a class diagram in there. So here's my question. I'm not going to read it out to you. What I'd like you to do is use this, pause the video now, do your class diagram for this question, and the answer to this appears on the next slide, which I will show you now. So please pause if you want to try this question out. So here's the answer. You can check it against the class diagram that you've made. And then I will show you what the class diagram in the 2017 exam looked like. So you can see the format is a little bit different, but the important thing is that on each line of the properties or the fields, there should be a minus. The name of the field must be there and the type. Yeah, so maybe not quite exactly what you'd expect, but a little bit different. And goodbye, see you next time.